My name is Thomas Clark, and welcome to the Takeoff Podcast, where myself and guests help equip you to bring the peace of God to the place you live, work, learn, and play, all for His glory. Every problem is a discipleship problem. Being a disciple of Christ does not guarantee that we will not have problems. It does, however, give us the tools to face the challenges of life that come our way. My worldview is that Christ transforms culture, and He does it through His followers. The goal of Takeoff is to equip you for movemental thinking when it comes to making disciples. This is episode 5 of season 5, and we're talking about from peace to pathways, how relationships become disciple-making spaces. You see, God does not just give us people of peace, but He turns relationships into pathways where discipleship can naturally grow. In this episode, I want to share some things we've learned as we've tried to practice release-based discipleship in real contexts. That is, we're releasing people, disciple makers, back to go and make disciples into their real context. In the last episode, we talked about recognizing persons of peace. And today we take the next step. What happens after peace is discovered? I'm afraid that many believers stop at just having a relationship with other people. That is, once you get to know them, you meet a person of peace, you're content with that, saying that you know someone new, you met someone new, and friendship is good. But please understand that discipleship requires intentionality. It's more than just knowing people, more than just meeting people, more than just being acquainted, affiliated with people, more than just being friends with people. There has to be a level of intentionality if we're going to disciple others. You see, peace opens the door, but pathways move people forward. So one of the things that at the beginning we're encouraged to consider and weigh in the balance is, what if peace is not the destination but the doorway? Yeah, what if meeting a person of peace, you meeting a person of peace, we meeting persons of peace is not the end all be all, but it's the doorway to take us to where Christ wants us to go. Which means then we cannot just be comfortable with relationships, and sometimes we can have the fear of pushing too much and saying, well, how do I balance that out? How do I balance the tension between having a relationship with someone, but then pushing to the spiritual formation? And please avoid confusing niceness with discipleship. Just because you and someone get along, you laugh, you talk, you may hang out sometimes, that does not mean you're discipling them. And it's important, because peace creates access, but it's pathways that create movement. And in a disciple-making movement, we need the actual movement if we're going to make disciples. Now, what did Jesus do? One of the things He did in His ministry is He turned relationships into pathways. And it's interesting, in the 3.5 years that's recorded of Jesus's ministry here on earth, and it was only 3.5 years. He lived 33.5 years, 3.5 years of ministry. One of the things we noticed that He did not rush outcomes. He wasn't quick to try and go from meeting someone to trying and making it be something it was not yet. Yes, He would move people into their first, second, or third spaces almost immediately. But in terms, though, of them being finished products or relationship being all need to be, no, He did not do that. He did not do that. He actually walked with people. Yeah, for those who were his followers, his disciples, that he didn't say, go back to your home and do what I've told you to do. And for the time that he was with them, he walked with them then. But others whom he was heavily invested in, he walked with them. They ate meals together. They traveled together. He asked them questions, and there were times, not many times, but sometimes he answered questions, but he actually asked way more questions than he answered. But then he shared life with them. And notice when he did this, you all, discipleship happened along the way. It was along the way of eating meals and traveling and asking questions. It was along the way of having shared life that discipleship took place. See, pathways are formed through shared rhythms. As we get into a shared rhythm with the people, for us at the Launching Pad Worldwide, we have what's called the 2x2x2 rhythm. Over a 4-week period, we have 2 times of worship. And I'm not talking about corporate worship. I'm talking about within the mission community or micro church. And worship consists of singing and praying, communion, discovery Bible study, baptism if someone comes to Christ and into salvation with Christ and needs to be baptized. Then baptism takes place. Sharing our praise reports and encouraging one another, 2 times of that over a 4-week period. Then 2 times of what we call social momentums. Social momentum is we say we have to have social momentum, which leads to spiritual momentum. Too often we want spiritual momentum first. No, social momentum leads to the social momentum. What is that? It's just hanging out. It's hanging out with other followers of Christ, specifically in our mission community or micro church, hanging out with them and doing the John 13, loving on one another and letting other people see us love on each other. So it's not just us hanging out together for the sake of hanging out together. No, it's inviting other people on our frank list, our friends, relatives, acquaintances, neighbors, classmates, or co-workers, FRANC, frank list. Living the blessed rhythms, BLESS, be in prayer, listen with intentionality, eating a meal, serving and being served, sharing our story about Jesus when it's appropriate. And as we do that with people, again, 2 times over a 4-week period, we begin to see formation happen. And then 2 times of service projects over a 4-week period, where we're serving people in our vicinity, in our community, in ways that mean something to them, not in ways that mean something to us, not just what we're trying to get rid of so we give something away. No, how do you or the people in your community need to be served? Because it means something to them. So we have that 2x2x2. Others describe it as up, in, and out. Up, that's the worship, the DBS part. In, the being together in community part. And out, serving other people. That's what Jesus had in his life, up, in, and out. Time with the Father, up. Time with the disciples and letting other people see them hang out with them. That's the in, and out, serving other people. And as we develop these shared rhythms and invite people into these rhythms, that's when pathways are formed. It's organic. You see, discipleship grows in proximity, not in programming. Discipleship doesn't grow because, again, we invite people to an event. Discipleship grows because we're close to people. We are embedded with them. We're incarnate and allow God to be incarnate through us into the lives of the people. So we're there for the good, the bad, and the otherwise, both in our lives and in their lives. And that's where discipleship happens, because we let people see that despite how good it may seem or be, it's only good because of Christ. Despite how bad it may seem or be, then he's with us in the bad. And the otherwise, whatever the otherwise is, he's with us there also. See, Jesus did not invite people to events. He invited people into life, into his life. Whatever was going on, that's what he invited people into. And that's what he would have us do also. Invite people into our life. And I've said it before, but it bears repeating. What we say at Launch Pad Worldwide is we invite people into our lives until they trust us enough to invite us back into their lives. Just keep inviting them, keep inviting them, keep inviting them, being real with them. So the question is, what is a disciple-making pathway? Well, I'm glad you asked, because a pathway, you all, is relational, not institutional. It's about relationships. It's not about the institution. It definitely is not about coming to a place. So the only thing we have in common is this place, this building, or one day a week, or this meeting, this session, this service, this worship experience, whatever. No, it's relational. A pathway is reproducible. It's not personality driven, so it's not based on what the pastor can do, or the choir can do, or the teacher can do, or some person can do. No, it's reproducible. Anyone can do this. Yeah, a pathway is something anyone can in which anyone can participate. A pathway is rhythmic. It's not random. In other words, there's a certain rhythm that takes place. So you know that it may not be every Tuesday, but maybe every week we're going to hang out, or maybe every couple of days I'm going to check in on you. Again, there's a rhythm that takes place. A pathway is intentional. It's not by accident. You don't stumble upon a pathway. You intentionally develop and bring people along a pathway. They should anticipate and be glad that you called and checked on them. They should anticipate that you're going to see about them and things that, or care about them and show them that you care. They should intentionally do that. So, again, what's some examples of these pathways? They can be relational, reproducible, rhythmic, and intentional. Walking together regularly. Just going on walks with others. Sharing meals. That can be relational, reproducible, rhythmic, and intentional. Prayer moments. Praying with others, praying for others. Scripture conversations, discovery Bible study, talking about the Lord and His Word, or even serving side by side, inviting people to opportunity to serve with you, or even you showing up to serve when they're serving also. Those are some examples of the pathways. But be clear, I'm going to be clear about something. You know what pathways are not? They're not a class. It's not saying I'm going to bring you over to teach or come over so I can teach you something. That's not. It's not a curriculum first. So let's study this particular curriculum. And it's not a pressure-filled process. It's not people feeling obligated and again, there may be some accountability where you say, hey, we say we're walking today, let's walk. But that's different than some pressure-filled process that you or others feel like you have to dot every I and cross every T. That's not what a pathway. Actually, pathways are formed where trust meets intention. So as people trust and you develop trust, and there's some intentionality around how you develop trust, you actually developing a pathway. Now, having said that, it's worth discussing why many relationships never become pathways. Well, one of the reasons is because fear of rejection. Sometimes people don't, I'm talking about followers of Christ now, disciple makers, those who should be making disciples. We don't allow the relationship with other people to become a pathway, because what we wind up doing, what some wind up doing, is putting themselves into what I call a missional friend zone. Some of y'all know, some who may have dated or wanted to date, and know people who dated and they friend zoned you, or they were friend zoned. You're just a friend. Well, and hear what I'm saying, because yes, we're a friend with the person that we're discipling, but what I'm saying is that's different from a missional friend zone. A missional friend zone is where you only hang out, but you never move towards spiritual formation conversations, nor do you ask to meet other people they know. That's a missional friend zone. So yeah, you're hanging out, but it never goes beyond just hanging out. You never meet anyone that they know. You never talk about Christ. He never comes up in the conversation. Another reason why relationships don't become pathways is there a fear of being misunderstood. Sometimes those who are disciple makers don't want others to misunderstand us. And so because we're so busy trying to show who we're not, that we never show them who Christ is in our lives and can be in their lives. Another reason why relationships never become pathways is there's a fear of losing the relationship. We're afraid the person won't want to talk with us, hang out with us, or associate with us any longer. So we never do what we think is pushing it to that point. And then sometimes you're waiting for the perfect time. And by the way, there is no such thing as the perfect time. Pathways actually grow naturally when we ask better questions. Yeah, the more we ask questions, and the reason we can ask better questions is because of the relationship that's been established. Because we are vulnerable, transparent, we invite people into our lives and we share with them, and they trust us enough to invite us back into their lives, then we're able to ask better questions. This happens, you all, because disciple making is an invitation, not a coercion. And it really is important to grasp that. If we're going to have relationship become a pathway, then it happens through invitation. As we get to know the people and the people get to know us, then we're inviting them on a journey with us, and we're asking for permission to go on a journey with them. In truth, avoiding discipleship does not preserve relationships. It actually limits them. Just because you don't disciple someone, that doesn't mean the relationship goes deeper. It actually doesn't. It stays shallow. But the more we go down the path of discipling, the better, deeper, and more firm a relationship becomes. So now the question is, how do we create pathways? And more than that, how do we gently create pathways? Well, one of the ways we do this, you all, is we invite, don't impose. That is, invite people into this relationship. Invite people into a relationship of trust. Don't impose yourself on them. Invite them, and we allow them to let us know as they're ready, as they're prepared to take that next step. Another way that we gently create pathways is we suggest, don't demand. To suggest that we hang out, suggest that there are things we do together, suggest, but don't demand anything. Don't tell me you better, you have to. Better yet, model, don't manufacture. Model what you want. Again, if you want someone to trust you, then show that you trust them. And then share with them, allowing them the opportunity to display and demonstrate trust. So here are some simple pathway starters. Again, since you're inviting, not imposing, you're suggesting, not demanding, you're modeling, not manufacturing, well, some of the starters are something along the lines of, would you like to walk together once a week? That's a simple, gentle way to create a pathway. Because during that time of walking, organic conversations can take place. Perhaps, as spiritual formation conversations happen, would you like to read a short passage together? And now the Word of God has been introduced, and it's an opportunity for that pathway to be created. Even, can I pray for you? I've used that many times. I use all of these, actually. Can I pray for you? Now that comes out of not a general prayer, but because you have lived the blessed rhythms. That is, be in prayer, listen with intentionality, eat a meal. So even before you pray with them, you're praying for them. And then you listen with intentionality to hear what's going on. You're eating a meal with them. You're serving and being served. And you're sharing your story about Christ when it's appropriate. BLESS, the blessed rhythms. You're doing this with your frank list. That is your friends, relatives, acquaintances, neighbors, classmates, co-workers, FRANC. These are the people with whom you are creating these pathways. And so when you say, can I pray for you? It's based on the conversations you've had with them, so they know you've listened to them. And then don't be afraid later to ask as a follow-up, hey, we prayed about whatever it is. How are things with that? Because the end is now is not that they feel like a project, but no, I'm vested in this with you. I care. I'm concerned. If it's still going on, whatever it may be, then you continue praying. But if things have changed and changed, and whatever's happening for the better, and is at least better in terms of what they're hoping for, or expecting, or wanted to have happen, then be certain to give praise to God for it. To let them know, hey, thank God. Thank you for sharing it with me. Thank you for trusting me to pray with you on this. And being clear that it's not because of my prayers, it's because of God. But I'm glad to walk with you through this. Another gentle pathway starter is, hey, let's talk about what you're wrestling with. Again, that comes out of trust and relationship. So for APES, apostolic, prophetic, evangelistic, shepherd, and teaching, these functional offices, how does this play out? Well, for the apostolic, it creates movement. Yeah, for apostolic, the pathway starters, the apostolic people, it creates movement. For the prophetic, it discerns timing as to when we can begin to try to have these pathways to develop. For the evangelistic, it invites curiosity. So those evangelistic, as you're doing this, you are open to, and you're allowing people to be curious and to let you know they're curious, and to you also be curious about them. For the shepherding, it nurtures safety, that the people know this is a safe space. When you share something with me, you're in relationship with me, you're in a safe space. For the teaching, it grounds formation. We aren't just talking what we feel, but we're saying what God is saying. See, pathways emerge when we walk at the speed of trust. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. What does that even mean? Well, what it means is, as you invite people and trust is developed and built, trust shows you where the next pathway is. It just emerges. The more trust is there, the more pathways you see and are developed. That's what happened in the life of Jesus. This is what happened in the life of others. That's what has worked for us. That as trust is developed, as people trust us, Sam, because we show we trust them, pathways naturally, organically emerge. So as we conclude this week's episode, I want to ask, as always, a question for reflection before we go into the I will statement. And this week's question for reflection is this. Ask yourself, who has God already given me relational access to? And what step am I hesitating to invite them into? Yeah, who is it that God has already given me relational access to? There's someone, some person of peace that he's given you access. And then what step am I hesitating to invite them into? What are you doing to hinder, stall, put off that pathway? I'm encouraging you to sit with that for a while and consider it, pray about it, ponder it, or even journal it. And write that name down. And with that, perhaps that person's name becomes the blank for this week's I will statement. And this week's I will statement is this. This week, I will intentionally invite blank, fill in the blank. What's that person's name? Perhaps it's the person that you've been hesitant to go into a relationship with. This week, I will intentionally invite blank into a simple next step of shared life with me. And then who will help you be accountable to that invitation? It's not the person that you're going to invite into the next step. Don't ask them to help you be accountable for what you're supposed to do with them. No, but your accountability partner should be someone that you can even share this episode with, share what you gleaned from this episode with, and then encourage them to do the same thing. You encourage them to do the same thing. So remember, you all, peace opens doors, but pathways build disciples. And discipleship is relational long before it's instructional. As the relationship is developed, then instruction happens. What we're doing in the disciple-making movement was work for us. What we've seen is it's obedience-based. And as we do it, we learn. And we're able to learn within the context of what we're doing, so it's relevant to where we are and to the people with whom we're working. Thank you so much for engaging with us. I really appreciate it. And until next time, let's take off. Before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you for engaging with this episode. Takeoff exists to equip everyday followers of Jesus to live as disciples who make disciples, right where they live, work, learn, and play. If this podcast has been helpful to you, I want to invite you to consider becoming a supporter for as little as $3 a month. Supporters help sustain this work and also receive short bonus reflections each week, extra thoughts, stories, and insights that continue the conversation beyond the episode. This is not about buying content. It's about partnering in formation and walking together in the slow, faithful work of disciple making.